Welcome back to EarthX 2026. I'm Paul Salfen, and we are here with Jeremy McKane and Ralph Chami. Welcome.
Thank you.
We are so excited to talk to you today because there's some brilliant minds here. There's some great people doing great things, and, well, you're two of them. And so we need to talk about, there's so much to talk about as far as ocean and finance part of that, and AI. So we're going to get into it here. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing here.
Yeah, well, I'm Jeremy McKane, as you already mentioned, but I started this journey on really trying to understand what is happening inside of the marine environment. We hear all the bad things,
Yes.
but when we hear all the bad things, okay, great, what do we do about them? And Lord Kelvin once famously said, we can only improve things once we've measured them. And so what we are doing in a nutshell is we're actually proving that we can create a marine protected area from a financial liability and turning it into a financial asset. And what this does is it allows us to protect large areas of the ocean with permanence. Sure, we might get kickstarted with some philanthropic dollars, but it keeps it going forever. And that is the true path of protecting 30% of the world's oceans by 2030.
Absolutely.
So I'm a financial economist by training. I spent 25 years at the IMF, and I co-founded an outfit called Blue Green Future. And what we do is we value the living nature, because currently what we do, we can value anything we can kill or extract.
Yeah.
But what keeps us alive, we treat as an externality. So what we do is we actually value the living nature, nature living for itself, and then we try to bring it into the economic paradigm in order to have a holistic view of our relationship with nature, and therefore basically live happily ever after.
It's beautiful. Well, you are both so good at what you do, and it takes a certain kind of individual to be able to do what it is that you do. When did you both find the passion for this?
I don't know. I mean, I think the premise of Ocean AI, which is our company, it was really to try to better understand things. I think I've always not understood a lot of things, and I've asked a lot of dumb questions. And I think I think that was really the motivator. I remember being at the beach with my grandfather, and we would go fishing. And, I remember watching these beautiful green emerald waves on the Texas shore. And as I got older, those emerald waves disappeared and they turned into chocolate milk. And I'm like, well, why is this happening? And, there's always these little hints in life that lead us to where we are. It's hard to say where you're going, but it's easy to look back at your footsteps in the sand and say, oh, that's where I've been. And, I remember the one thing that really pushed me over the edge, I was in a very remote island just north of Australia, just south of Papua New Guinea. And it was more plastic than I'd ever seen in my life. But there was no trace of humans anywhere. And I remember thinking, oh, man, you know what? Somebody should come out here and just fix this. And then that's when I realized that's what the problem is. We're always thinking someone else, not us, should go and fix this problem, when every single one of us can do something. The question is what? What is your superpower? So for me, I realized that my superpower, one, was on the arts, but also using technology to tell a story that was a holistic story that moved us to action.
Well said.
For me, again, I come from the markets. I'm not I was not an environmentalist, but I found myself in 2017 on a boat, a 25-foot boat, staring at a 100-foot long blue whale. And of course, you think, well, the blue whale, 100 foot, she's going to swallow us, she's going to knock us over. Nothing of the sort. In fact, she opened her eye and looked at me, and that twinkle said, hey, I see you. Do you see me? And then, that's really, you can say there's Ralph before 2017, there's Ralph after 2017, but really what changed everything for me was a conversation at night with the scientists, where I discovered that the whales capture so much carbon on their body and indirectly through their fertilization of the phyto, equivalent to about 30,000 trees, one whale. So being an economist, you always think, well, what's the value of something like that, right? And of course, the scientists were like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, look, man, I work for the IMF.
Yeah.
I provide a service, and they pay me a salary. Here's a whale providing service to all of humanity. She's helping to regulate the climate by capturing carbon. What is the value of her service? And they said, can you do it? I said, yeah. If you give me the data, I'll do it. So, in brief, we discovered that the whale, just the carbon sequestration aspect, is worth $2 million.
Wow.
Why is that important? Because when you kill that beautiful creature and you sell it in countries where they still eat, whale meat, it's $40,000.
Wow.
So right away you're like, it's a eureka moment, if you like.
Yeah.
For each one of us, there's our own eureka moment.
Yeah.
That was it. That was that day. And then you start to see it. We did the same thing with the elephants, forest elephants. We discovered the the science, not us.
Mm-hmm.
Scientists knew this, but we didn't know that forest elephants, like the whales, increase carbon storage in the forest by 14%.
Wow.
So what is the value of that service? Well, it's $1.75 million per elephant.
Wow.
And then the next question was, seagrass. What does seagrass do? Aside from, when you go to a resort, you don't want your feet to touch the seagrass, right? Turns out that seagrass is actually gold, because that seagrass captures so much carbon, incredible amount of carbon. And when you have healthy seagrass, you have healthy fish stock. When you have healthy seagrass, you're staving off flooding. Being a finance guy, I can value all of these things. So globally, that seagrass is worth, just in carbon, over $1 trillion. So suddenly you start to see a living nature is worth a lot. So why kill it then? Because our current system is only about anything you can kill, anything you can extract, you can price. So this is a different way of saying, no, what's keeping you alive is incredibly valuable. So how do you bring it into the markets? That's our project, together. So how do you bring that knowledge from the science into finance, into the markets, to bring the markets into this to see a value proposition? Mm-hmm. And then together, we worked all together to save nature and thereby save ourselves.
Yeah, but what he didn't tell you is that when the whale was there and he was there and that little wink in the eye, it was because he didn't have his shirt on. And he was just winking at Ralph on the way.
I thought you was going to fail.
Oh, man. The more you know. Hey, speaking of the more you know, with AI, there's a lot of discussion about the good and bad of it, but I mean we are learning so much through it, and you have a different outlook on about what AI means, right?
Sure. Well, I mean, OCN.ai is our website, and you would think it's artificial intelligence, but I like to say it's actionable intelligence, right? So it's not so much about what is that intelligent, what are you going to do, what is it? What did Sting say? It was something like there's no such thing as military intelligence, right? I hope I don't offend anybody, but especially now, of course, this is a really bad time to bring that up. But
security over there.
But actionable intelligence, because when we know something, the question is, what will we do with that information when we get it? And so for us, it's, for so long we've looked at marine protected areas in a way where we say, well, look, we've protected this area, and then 30 years goes by and the government might say, well, we want to extend this. Well, the public's now asking the question, well, wait a second, what happened in the last 30 years? But for the first time in history, we can actually look at, areas of large oceans. How much coral is there? Is the coral healthy? What is there any type of particulate that's floating? Measuring photosynthetic active radiation and the amounts of clarity, chlorophyll A blooms. All of these little data points tell a beautiful story, and it's not about the data that we collect; it's the interpretation of that data.
Absolutely. Wow. So what happens if we get the valuation wrong?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Well, when you do the valuation part, you need his part.
Yes.
Because otherwise, if I go to the markets, it's like when you have a new asset. And there's basically what it is. We're saying living nature is a new asset class. By the way, I'm not the first to say that, because BlackRock said it about a year ago. They came out with their report. They said nature is a new asset class. What they were talking about is not dead nature. Oil, gas is nature too, but that's dead nature. Timber is dead nature. They were talking about living nature, mangrove, seagrass, salt marsh, forests, right, and so on. They're saying that's a new asset class. So in order for you to bring the markets into this, you still have to do standard contract stuff, which is who's monitoring the asset, who's verifying the action, who's doing all of that verification, and that's where AI comes in. We call it digital MRV. It allows, in the past, you needed someone to get in the water, wade in the water, to do, I'm looking, I mean, who's going to do this now? Especially in the ocean, right? You can't do that. You may do it on land, but you can't do it in the ocean. So digital MRV, AI, the stuff that Jeremy does, allows us to directly go to the markets and say, hey, you can do verification, you can do accountability, you can transparency, yeah, traceability, all of these things using also blockchain technology, if you like. So there is room for science, there's room for conservation, there's room for AI, and there's room for markets. So you're bringing all of the stakeholders under the same roof, which is a better world.
I mean, would you buy a stock if you couldn't do any intelligence before? No research. You're just you might as well go to Vegas, man. Right? So that's really what this is. This is actionable intelligence that gives you the power to really understand what's going on. Because if you're going to start asking for investors to actually protect large areas of the ocean, where's the money going? How do I know that it's actually being protected?
Yeah. See, capitalism can protect the ecosystem,
Absolutely
not just
can.
exploit it, right?
Yes, if you incentivize, you know, because I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, you're from the markets, you guys are evil." I'm like, no, it's because no one made the case for us that a living nature is a new asset. If it is, then I'll protect it, I'll insure it, I'll provide all kinds of services to it. We didn't have the science, we did not know. Now that, you know, once you see the light, you don't dwell in darkness.
Yeah,
Put that on a
if we
t-shirt.
could.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So our job is we say, look, there's this new knowledge that's coming from the science. So people say, of course, yeah, this is wonderful. Let's see what we can do about it.
Yeah, well, you're in the right place, too, because EarthX, there's some wonderful people here to connect with the eCapital Summit and everything. Who is it that you're looking forward to connecting to, or who have you connected to that's been great for you?
You know, I have to be honest with you. I mean, I actually have really enjoyed over the last few years when I go to conferences to be in the present moment. I know that sounds like cliche,
I'm
but
right there with you.
But if you're always out there chasing to do transactions, you're never going to get what you need. But some of the most beautiful things happen when you just sit down, and as my dad used to say, if this is working, this isn't working. Right? Just listen to somebody, you know. And so what I find here at EarthX, a lot of times I just sit down with people that I have no idea who they are sometimes, and I'm actually really surprised at what they're working on. And then I have a saying that I've always said since I was maybe in high school: I might not do business with you, but I promise someone I know will do business with you. And you can only say that if you listen.
Same. I mean, first of all, I'm grateful that I got invited. This is my first time here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm grateful to Mr. Crow, to Matt Tranchen and colleagues. I'm grateful to Jeremy and others. And it's the same. It's like you're walking around, you bump into people, and you realize you're not alone. Because the worst part is when you're thinking, is anybody like me? And you find, you know what? You're not the only one here
There's
doing
a few
this.
crazy people here.
It's crazy.
That's all we need.
But we're crazy together.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
for a good cause. So you're like, you take heart in it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well, absolutely. Well, we need more people like you in the world. So if somebody's watching this, and there's a lot of younger people,
Yeah.
I've seen some students here, if they're looking at you and they're saying, see, I want to do what you do. I want to go down this path. What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, you know what? Never stop asking questions. And don't be afraid to ask what you might think is a dumb question. There's no dumb questions. In fact, actually, an old friend of mine used to say, there are no dumb questions, but there are a lot of inquisitive idiots. I'm an inquisitive idiot. I would ask so many questions of people, and our dear friend Dr. Carlos Duarte, he's the number one marine scientist in the world, and I ask some pretty pedantic questions sometimes to him, and I always wonder, I'm like, am I asking too many questions? Educators are like, no, this is what I do. I'm an educator. I'm happy to answer these questions. But what I find is that if you're in school and you're inspired maybe by people that you see here at EarthX or elsewhere, reach out to them, ask questions, because the best thing that you can possibly have is somebody that's willing to be a mentor. I met a 16-year-old young man just the other day. He stopped me out of a crowd, and he said, "Hey, can I ask you a few questions?" And he was bold. He was very clear, and I met tons of adults that can't tell me what they do in 2 minutes, let alone this kid. He knocked it out of the ballpark.
Good.
So if you have that same inclination, that same drive, find people that you can include. Pretend you're the president. You're picking your cabinet. So the young ones that are watching this, that are maybe they're in high school or whatever, pick your cabinet and become president. That's my advice.
I love it.
Amen, man. You look, exactly the same as being inquisitive. People say, how can I be interesting? I said, you can be interesting if you're interested. You have to be interested. Now, if you want to see a career advice, right? If I'm a student in finance, I would take courses in natural sciences because our work is interdisciplinary. So in our team, we have the scientists, we have legal minds, we have anthropologists, we have historians, we have psychologists, we have musicians. I mean, we have everybody. The beauty of this work is actually, breaks all the silos because you're telling the story of life, and everybody can see their role in it. Everybody has a part in it. So for these students, don't just say, hey, I'm studying accounting, I'm studying finance, you have the chance now to actually do cross-disciplinary work, right? And that's actually how you set yourself, sort of in the right direction for the future.
I mean, and also be entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of problems that are out there that people lament over, right? And then if you look at that and say, well, I would love to try to solve that problem. That is really where the opportunities come from. It's from other people's pain points, basically. Yeah. So look at those things, because right now when we look at the stuff that we're working on, it's incredibly difficult. It's and we have people every 5 minutes telling how it's not possible, but we're living proof that it is possible, and we're doing it, and we don't need anybody's permission.
Truth, perseverance.
Yeah. Well, you guys are the change makers, and you have that definite spark to you. Real quickly before we wrap it up, what is it that when you wake up in the morning, is there something you tell yourself that kind of keeps you on that right path? Because this is a huge, huge uphill battle that we're fighting, but you're doing it, and you got the right attitude for it.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I always ask that question. I ask everybody, what's your ikigai, right? What's the thing that motivates you in the morning to get out of bed? For me, one that really kind of started me on this particular journey was Dr. Sylvia Earle. I sat next to that young lady about 11 years ago, and she said to me, Jeremy, how do we value the ocean where it is? And it was a puzzle. Yeah. I said, I don't know, Sylvia, but I'm going to figure it out. And we have figured it out. So for me to see this thing coming from, just a concept where everyone told me that it wasn't possible, and now we have some of the world's largest carbon buyers that are now wanting to work with us. This is exciting. This is a vindication. And so it's like, for me, I get up every single day with a new set of problems that turn into just wonderful experiences. And I would not change a thing about my life if I had to do it all over again.
It's beautifully said.
I feel like I'm a storyteller, right? So I had the chance to learn from the scientists, what nature, the living nature, does for us beyond its beauty, beyond its majestic and all this stuff. It's what it does for us, particularly to make us, to allow us to continue to live. And I feel like since I come from the finance world, so I'm a translator. I take that work in science and I translate it into the language of dollars and cents, so I can tell the finance guys, hey man, this is the best party you've missed. Why don't you come inside the tent, because we need everybody inside the tent.
Good.
I would like to close with one last piece.
Please do.
In this space, Ralph and I have seen a lot, and the worst thing that we could possibly have right now is egos. A rising tide floats all boats.
That's right.
Check your ego at the door, because the only way through this is together.
Yeah, well said. So tell everybody where they can find you, not only outside of here, but here at the conference as well.
Yeah, visit us at ocn.ai. Literally, we are the rails, the infrastructure for the blue carbon market.
You find us at bluegreenfuture.org.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate your time. Congratulations on everything. We'll look forward to seeing you around here a little bit more at EarthX. So stay tuned. We'll be back with more on the EarthX TV podcast stage.